now you have the ability to maximize a seller's return, or more importantly, make them feel really good about the price that they're going to get. Because I ask sellers all the time, I say,
welcome everybody to another episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed, where we expose everything related to entrepreneurship with a twist of business acquisitions. And if y'all know me at all, you know that I love conversations about business acquisitions, but I also love conversations about real estate because of how closely related they are. And we've had a couple of conversations about real estate before. We spoke about commercial real estate development. We spoke about fix and flips, the BRRRR method. We spoke about being a landlord, multifamily properties, but we never really went fully deep into how you can do creative deal structuring in the real estate market for acquisitions of real estate. So today, I heard this guy speak. Our guest today, I heard him speak and I was like, hey, that's me. That's what I do. It was a perfect, it was one of those moments like, yo, we got to connect. Right. So he already came and spoke to the community, the BBI community, and we had to get him on Entrepreneurship Exposed as well. So welcome to my guy, Zachary Beach. Zach, what is good, brother? How's everything?
Oh, Beez, I'm excited to be on here today. Yeah. I was so pumped when you spoke before me. I was like, my life is going to be so easy. He's sitting up there, he's talking about how to buy real estate on creative financing, and I'm like, all I have to do is just go up there and talk about real estate now because he already set the stage. It was so easiest speaking engagement ever. Okay,
so you know what? You should have went first because I believe, and you tell me this though.
Yeah, sure.
Do you? I mean, we're jumping right in apparently. I didn't even get to introduce yourself yet, but we're gonna come back to that. But tell me this: do you get hesitation from people when you explain this? Like, oh, I don't know if I could do that type of thing. Do you get that?
Well, I think creative financing just in general is like this, people almost feel like it's too good to be true. Like it's a facade, right? It's like, you tell me you can buy real estate with no money down, that somebody doesn't need you to go to a bank or personally guarantee the debt, or you're going to leave debt that belongs to somebody else on the real estate and you're going to own it. It's like this magical thing that's out there. But as soon as people discover how simple it is, meaning that like it's all about just solving problems, and I'm sure you talk about this on your podcast all the time, all about solving problems, the pain of leaving, say, you're leaving debt on the property and keeping it in your name always has to be less than the current, pain that they're suffering. Because if I can solve their problem and leaving the debt on the property is one example is what needs to happen, then people are willing to do it. So it's all about solving people's problems. So yeah, the simple answer is until anybody understands creative financing, they believe it can be daunting and confusing, but at the end of the day, it's actually way less complicated than a traditional real estate investment deal. And we'll probably go into that throughout today as well.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I figured it would be easier or more digestible for people when they're hearing it in the real estate side, right? People had no idea you could do this with a cash flowing business too. Yeah. They didn't even know that you could buy. A lot of people I speak to didn't even know you can acquire a business. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, this is actually easier than starting one from scratch. But taking it to the next level of saying, yeah, you can acquire a business and you could do it with no money out of your pocket and through creative deal structuring. Most people feel like that's above my pay grade. I can't do that. But it's because they've never seen anyone acquire a business. But almost everybody's seen somebody buy real estate. So I figured it would be a little bit more digestible and easier for them to accept. But I'm learning that no, you still have the hesitation from some people.
Yeah, I mean, it could be true, right? Depends on the audience you're speaking to. You're right in the aspect of real estate investing has been such a staple of like how to grow wealth for so long that although they might not be privy to creative financing, they know that real estate investing is something that they should have or be doing if they want to grow wealth long-term, even if it's just, if it's passive or whatever that may be. So you're right. It could be a little bit more digestible. I think that most people in general, unless you're like an entrepreneur or business owner, don't understand the complexities of a business, period. And that was something I had to learn. I was a bartender and personal trainer before this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, before you get to the episode, I just wanted to take another moment to say thank you to each and every one of you for supporting the channel. Entrepreneurship Exposed is starting to grow like crazy, and it's all thanks to you guys. Now, if you like the content, like the information that you're getting, like the guest speakers, like all of the strategies, then the way that you can support us is by subscribing to the channel below. Now, after you subscribe, you want to make sure that you also like every video. You comment on it if you can. And even more important is to click that notification bell. That notification bell will make sure that you get to see every single episode with all of this amazing information so that you can get started on your journey as an entrepreneur. All right, now back to the episode. Let's go.
I would agree with you that me stepping up and talking about real estate first, and then, oh, by the way, go ahead and go buy some businesses. Maybe a good approach. Yeah.
So we going on tour together, and that's going to be the order. So you go first, warm them up. They're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, by the way, one more thing. You can also do it in a business. But anyway, let's go back to the formal approach. And Zach Beez, can you tell the people more about you and how you even came across this strategy and how you got to where you are with it today?
Yeah, so I always like to tell people I was a poor kid that grew up in a rich town. So if you don't see that chip on my shoulder, I mean, it's sitting there. So it really has been driven me since day one. I've always wanted to be successful, and I always had the itch for entrepreneurship in general. I mean, I was collecting golf balls before fourth grade and selling them at the tees. So when I went off to college, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. Again, the chip said, hey, you're going to go prove everyone wrong because everybody said you couldn't go. Mm-hmm. So when I got out of college, I was like, I don't have zero idea what I want to do. So I became a bartender, putting my good college degree to work. But I learned a ton there, right? I learned communication skills and management and pressure and handling that type of scenario in a really tourist-driven area of Newport, Rhode Island. And I eventually just got super burnt out. I was bartending, I was personal training, I was then doing, MLM companies. So I was just trying to figure it out. So I eventually I went up to my father-in-law. So my father-in-law has been in real estate for over 30 years now. And he actually got crushed in 2008. So he was trying to figure out a new way to get back into real estate investing. And creative financing was the only method he could find that would actually get him back in, because you don't need credit. You don't need large down payments. You don't need to go to banks. And what couldn't he do? He couldn't have done any of those things. He didn't have the resource in order to get back involved in real estate. So I knew that he was rebuilding this business. So I approached him just about 9 years ago, going on about 10 here soon. And I said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but I'd love to know what you're doing. And maybe I can go ahead and start doing some things like that as well. So I started from the ground up. Man, I was cold calling and just reaching out to people that, at one point in time advertised that they wanted to be sell their piece of real estate. And I just started working that business as hard as I could in addition to what I was doing. And then eventually, I burned the ships like Cortez and made the leap. And I've been in real estate investing ever since.
Great analogy for sure. Yeah. but that's a fun fact. Was it 2 years after college for me that I became a bartender too? Right. So, but it was I was in corporate America at the time. I was working, but I became a bartender on the weekends just for fun, to be honest. It was like, hey, I was still going to the club a bit, so I was like,
I was get paid to be there, right?
I was get paid to be there.
Plus, you're on stage, right? I mean, everybody wants to be friends with the bartender.
Exactly.
So I probably had more fun than the people at the bar did, which is the best.
Exactly, right? And I had a little bit of odd end jobs that I didn't need. Like I was a park ranger for a little bit too, right? So that's a whole nother story. But I'll tell you all types of random little things I did. But okay, let's get into this real estate thing now, right? Now, I always tell everyone, I can't lie, I am no expert in real estate. I dabbled a little bit, had some bad decisions, and I've had some good ones. And then I kind of realized, I'm not going to be a professional, an expert in this. So let me just pay the experts to invest for me, etc., like that. But my issue with real estate was always when I first got in, and I think a lot of people follow this path or whatever, this, order of operations. I got in and was like, okay, let me get into fixing and flipping, because I was able to find some real estate for really inexpensive in certain markets, Cleveland, Chicago, and maybe I got something for 50 to 100,000, put, I don't know, 20,000 into it, and then able to flip it, and within like 6 months, and maybe make 50,000 off of it. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I was making some money off of it. And I was like, this is cool. I did it a couple of times, but then I started thinking about the opportunity cost. And I was like, 6 months to make 50,000? I got other ways I can make more than that in a shorter period of time. So I started, focusing on those things. And then I went more into the single family. Then I went into the multifamily. And even with those, I was like, yeah, but now I'm a landlord. I don't want to be a landlord. I thought I could get a property management company to take care of it. And they were like, oh no, it's too small. We don't take it for those. I'm like, what? So then I realized that, okay, maybe I'll do real estate if I could get like huge apartment buildings or something, because then it's cash flow. Then it's also, I could get property management, right? Mm-hmm. But there was a certain barrier of entry for that for me.
Sure.
And then I realized the ultimate in real estate, in my opinion, was commercial real estate development. That's where you can make the real bang for your buck and all that type of stuff, and less time, and not have to be, as a landlord and such. Mm-hmm. Then I met you. I was like, I want to go back into real estate now, right? Sure. What are your thoughts on those different forms of real estate, and then how it compares to what you're doing?
Well, I would start by saying this, like creative financing is like in my opinion, like the foundation to all those other real estate investment strategies, because it can fit in each and every one of those. Creative financing is just it's a technique of either utilizing current debt that's on properties, right? Those are known as like subject to deals, or controlling somebody else's debt, meaning that they will be your bank or getting other people to finance you. And then a mixture of kind of everything in between. And then, the last thing would be like controlling real estate without actual ownership. Some people really enjoy that because it's super seamless and it's extremely risk averse. And those are known as like lease options, right? You don't own anything, but you control the assets. You can create cash flow from it. I think that there's a preconceived notion of what the path is of a real estate investor. You either start at wholesaling or fix and flipping. And then you graduate. Like now everyone is like graduating to creative financing. Or they graduate to multifamily, right? So it's all different paths. I mean, luckily enough, I was naive. I had no idea what real estate investing was. So I had no preconceived notion to say, Zach, you have to do this. I was just like, hey, I can buy real estate without money. I'm in. Tell me how to talk to people and I'll solve people's problems. But I do believe that there is a component of having long-term holds, but also creative financing techniques. Like I'm a big component of having long-term holds mixed with rent to own. We do a lot of rent to own. You talked about not wanting to be a landlord in single family homes. All right, well, perfect opportunity to not be a landlord. And even more importantly, taking money off the table day one. That's why it's extremely risk averse. It's like I get a property that I own. I then go sell it to a tenant buyer, a buyer that needs time to qualify for a loan. They give me 5 to 10% for a down payment as non-refundable. So like on a $500,000 house, I'm getting anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000+ in my pocket day one when someone moves in. Now it's not a long-term strategy, right? Those usually cash out every 3 to 5 years. But you get down payment, you're getting cash flow on the property because your tenant buyer is paying you and you're paying the expenses, you're collecting a delta, and you're building an equity in those deals. So there's that risk averse of, hey, I'm going to play some rent to own buyers. And I'll say this as well. And that's because during COVID, we had extremely low default rate of our tenant buyers. Why? Because they wanted to become a homeowner. They were treating it like they were homeowners yet. They just didn't have their own loan. So what did they have? They had a non-refundable deposit that was at risk. So they were going to keep making their monthly payments and figure out a way to do it, or at least communicate with us in order to structure a plan. Versus traditional tenancy, right? That is, they're renting. People don't treat your property like they do when they own it. So you're renting this house. So what does that do? That's got some long-term play with it, right? You can rent it for as long as you want, but you also have to deal with some of the headaches like during COVID, right? They had this extremely high default rate. And most landlords didn't want to be landlords anymore.
Yeah.
That's also when we jump into some other things, some opportunities that are happening right now. So it's a little bit of a mix. I know I went about a little bit of a tangent to the right-hand side, but there is no real clear path, in my opinion. It just depends on what your strategy is for your goals. I also do love multifamilies in commercial real estate. We bought a commercial building, which I showed you the HUD when we were at that event. At one point, we ended up bought it for $550, sold for $1.2 million. We put down less than 5% on that property, didn't personally guarantee the debt. So I like it even more in commercial and multifamily because it gives you a leg up, because it's extremely hard right now to get those types of loans. Plus, you have to put down 25 to 30% right now to get an 8% loan. Who wants to do that? Instead, we'll show you how to get much lower interest rates, if any, without putting down as much money.
Okay. So before we get too deep, and then the audience is like, wait a minute, hold on, I still don't understand how we're doing all of this. Let's frame it first. Let's explain, because we got to pop this later. Not yet.
We're going to pop
this later, right? But for now, let's just explain in the simplest terms, and you do a great job at that, by the way. So kudos to you, because that really, laid it out for me and my community when they heard it all. But just explain it to the audience in simplest terms. What exactly is it that you are doing with real estate, and how does this work?
Yeah, let me break it down like this. So there's 3 strategies on how we buy. And really, all creative financing is just solving some of these problems and then either controlling debt or creating new debt. And let me break it down even simpler. So we buy 3 different ways. One is a lease option. I talked about that. A lease option or a lease purchase simply means that you're just going to control the property without ownership. Just know that, and your intent is to sell it, either on a rent to own or rent it. We also have owner financing, which, just think about, on owner financing, your seller is your bank. So instead of going to a bank, your seller just becomes your bank. And we could talk about why people would actually do that, but there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that want to do it because they have an asset that's debt-free. And then the last one would be what?
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Oh yeah. And then subject to deals, which I know a lot of people have heard now the word sub to. So subject to deals are really just when you buy a property, you take ownership as the investor, but the original debt or the original mortgage that's on the property remains attached to the seller. Yes, it's 100% legal. Yes, there's many ways in order to structure the deal. No, you don't necessarily always have to worry about the due on sales clause. There's many different ways in order to continuously buy these pieces of real estate, because at the end of the day, it's about solving people's problems. So those are the 3 ways we buy them. It just means that we certainly help out everyone that couldn't get the traditional sale as their end result.
Awesome. So through these things, you're able to, because, for example, how the debt is, there's no debt in the business, the business. You see where I'm
See what's happening?
But there's no debt on the real estate. Yeah. That's one of the easier ones, because now the seller can make that decision to say, yeah, I can extend a loan to you through seller financing and get things done quicker and easier without having to go to the bank. But I know the biggest question that everybody's going to ask is, but why would somebody want to do that?
Yeah, let's stick on seller financing too. I think it's the most relatable when it comes to the your strategy and mine. I think it's very prevalent in business acquisitions too.
I don't do any deal, any business acquisition without some form of seller financing included. It's a must. So yeah, it's 100% related.
Love it. So seller financing, right? So there's roughly a third of the properties in the United States are debt-free. A third of the properties in the United States are debt-free. What does that mean? That means that these sellers are not in a financial bind, right? So most people, when they hear creative financing, why would somebody sell a property with little to no money down? Why would somebody sell a property with 0% interest or low interest rates? And that's because we are, number one, solving their problem, but that's because they're also trying to reach a goal. They're not necessarily need me to come in and save the day. If anything, they want to maximize their profit on their house. So right now, we're dealing with sellers that have unrealistic expectations. I could probably just say that across the board, because every seller that's interested in selling now thinks their property is worth what it was worth during COVID, right?
Yeah.
But it's not anymore. I mean, in most markets, it's not. I'm doing a broad stroke. And when I say markets, I mean, I'm sitting in central Massachusetts. There's probably 5 different markets in central Massachusetts. I'm going to use it as a broad stroke of just saying the real estate market across the United States. So in most markets right now, the prices are either staying stagnant or declining. So they're not worth what they were during COVID. But sellers still believe they are. So I know we use this. We talked about this on your event that I was part of, and we said, all right, your price, my terms, right? So now you have the ability to maximize a seller's return, or more importantly, make them feel really good about the price that they're going to get. Because I ask sellers all the time. I say, all right, is price most important to you? Is it down payment? Is it interest rate? You tell me what's most important, because I can't give you all of it, but I can usually create some options that highlight like what you really want. And a lot of sellers will say, I want my price. And I say, great. And we all know it's more of an ego statement than anything else, because the way when you structure creative financing, yes, they're winning, but you're winning, just as much, if not more.
Exactly.
And you're willing to pay their price. So that's one reason, maximizing profit. Another reason why sellers are interested in selling on creative financing, that would be creating cash flow, right? So if we have all these debt-free properties out there, but they have the same stigmatism as like Beez says, which is like, I don't want to be a landlord, right? All right, great. I'll be your landlord. I'll own the property and you be my bank, and I'll just make monthly payments to you. That's as close to mailbox money as you're going to receive. Oh, and by the way, you're in a very strong position because there's no other debt on the property. You're actually in first position, which means that you are in a risk-averse position, Mr. Seller. And if for some reason I mess up, you foreclose on me, you take the house back. So very risk-averse for a seller, right? And then the last one that I would say, there's many more, but the last one I would highlight would be for state or tax planning purposes.
There we go.
We bought our commercial building from a seller that was interested in seller financing, enough so that he put a sign up in front of his commercial building that says, want seller financing. So when we approached him, we created a very lucrative deal for both of us. But at the end of the day, what he didn't want to do is he didn't want his family to have to manage the property. What he did want is he wanted his family to be able to receive financial gains from the property or cash flow. So we came in, we owned it, we put our companies in there, we managed the property, and then they simply got an interest rate or a monthly payment every single month. So a state or tax planning purpose would be another reason. There's so many reasons that we can go about. But at the end of the day, there's so many sellers out there that really want to utilize their piece of property as an asset. I don't want to sell it or want to continue to maximize it while selling it.
Definitely. So the first two, the first one and the last one, definitely on the business side too, right? As reasons for why seller financing makes sense for them, right? Your price, my terms. And not so much the second one, which is to create cash flow because the business already has cash flow, right? Sure. But to minimize your tax liability is extremely important. And once people realize like, oh my goodness, if I sell this business, I may have to pay 20 to 30% capital gains tax. Well, not if you give seller financing, because then it's structured as a loan and you don't pay taxes on the loan unless you add interest, and you pay taxes on the interest, right? So it's definitely the same approach, and why it makes sense to seek creative terms, right? Yeah. But now, so here goes the thing. Would you say that, I believe it makes sense and it's the exact same thing on both sides, but I feel like it's an easier sell to the seller when it's about real estate. Oh, you could just take the real estate back and blah, blah, blah. We say the same things. If we default, you've taken the business back, all the assets and everything in the business. But often they don't want the business back because that's a headache. I don't want to have to, work in the business and run the business again. But taking the real estate back ain't that big of a deal. I just still own the real estate. So do you feel that has been a boon for you, the fact that they get a hard asset back and they feel more comfortable with it? Or is this something that you still have to really convince them on?
It depends on the seller. Like if it's like an inheritance or something, like they don't want the real estate, they want nothing to do with it. Or if somebody's like relocating out of state, they're like, the last thing I want to worry about is have this property come back to me. Yeah. But like some say a tired landlord, someone that like has been operating the property for a long time. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty easy for them to take back that hard asset, because also historically, the longer you hold on to the property, the more it appreciates. So it's very likely that, the seller, if he were to ever get it back, it's going to appreciate long-term, right? It may dip in markets, right? We have cycles, but if you hold on to a property for long enough, it's going to be worth a lot more than if you sell it. So, I think that is, depending on the right seller, that is a good sell. Let me say this too, like the only difference, and I hope this gives you guys hope, the only difference between me being able to get seller financing and me not, like say someone listen to this, is because I ask. That's the only difference. One of the number one mistakes that most of our members make, so the people I buy real estate with all across the country, one of the biggest mistakes is they make assumptions or they think for the seller. That will kill more deals than you asking the question. That'll kill more deals than sellers. It's your own mind. So the only reason why I can get it and you're not currently getting it is because you're not asking. So that's that. If you could just get one takeaway from this today, please.
There you go. There's a saying: "Closed mouths don't get fed." Right. Yeah. So if you don't speak up and say you're hungry, you ain't gonna get fed. But so here goes another question for you, right? I although we say your price, my terms.
Sure.
On the business side, I advocate for my community, my students, to not overpay, though, right? So we do fair market valuation. It's kind of like going to the Kelley Blue Book for cars, but for businesses. Okay. And then we say, okay, your business is worth $1 million, but you're asking 1.5. I'll give you 1.2. I'm willing to overpay by 300K, but not by 500K. Do you have that type of threshold too, or something, or do you just say, well, no, we'll give you your price as long as you want to give the terms?
Great question. So it depends upon the terms, but here's a different way I encourage everyone to look at it. And that is, it's more about how much the seller actually put in their pocket at the end of the day. So we always ask, if you were to sell, how much money did you expect to put in your pocket? Like after realtor costs, closing costs, any other holding costs, how much did you expect to put in your pocket? Because every seller knows how much money they were expecting to put in their pocket. Then we say, okay, how about if we can agree to that number, then are you open to doing X, Y, and Z? Because that automatically pulls realtor commissions and things like that off the top. So now, even though we're talking about retail price, we're actually below retail because we're getting a lot of their original costs off the table and just locking in their equity and then moving on.
I like it. I love that approach. There we go.
Okay. Maybe you can take that to the business too.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking for everything. Everything I speak to you about, I'm like, how's that apply on the business side? Are we doing the exact same things? It's something I didn't think of, so I love it. Okay, so I think, don't let do this later, but I think we're going to start with the pop right now.
Let's pop it.
Let's pop the world of creative financing for real estate. We are going into the pros, the opportunities, and the problems. It is time to pop this industry. Let's go. So Zach, what are the pros of deal structuring and creative financing for real estate?
Yeah, I think we've gone over a majority of the pros, right? I think that's where we always start off with most of these podcasts, is talk about how awesome it is, right? So, buying real estate without cash, without credit, without going to banks. That's pretty powerful pros there in general. And at the end of the deal, right now, we're able to create cash flow on properties. If you're selling on rent to own, you're able to create non-refundable deposits. You're able to build an equity, tap into what is our trademarked, nationally trademarked 3 payday system: cash now, cash monthly, and back-end profits. So those are some major pros at the end of the day. And guess what? You get to eliminate traditional barriers, because what stops most people from investing in real estate? It's usually the bank. Yep. Because the bank is going to need a certain amount of money down, and they're going to need you to personally guarantee the debt, or they're going to only loan you a certain amount of money based upon debt to service loan ratios, or how many properties you currently own, and we're going to weigh it against your current portfolio. It's just, you eliminate all of that through creative financing, which means that you can scale this business as big as you want, depending on how many deals you can get. It just becomes now an acquisitions challenge. And now we solve, all right, how do we get the right amount of leads and conversion, and then deals, and then profits, and then sales. So it just becomes an acquisitions challenge. And that's really all creative financing boils down to. if you're really looking to scale.
Love it. And this is not really a pro in essence, but I just want to ask though, I often say that, if I spoke to 20 sellers of their business, maybe I got 3 of them completely zero out of my pocket, but that's a great thing for me. Speak to 20 people and I get 3 multi-million-dollar businesses. What would you say that percentage might fit for you in the real estate side?
Yeah, the baseline metrics that we always use, and we've used them for the past, or we historically have had them for the past 10 years. Now, if you're listening to this, your numbers may vary based upon your skill set.
Of course.
Right? But we always weigh this against all of our members too. And we always say 15 active leads each week, or 15 qualified leads, 1 appointment each week. So that's going to be 60 leads, 4 appointments, should equate to a deal a month.
There we go. I like that. Okay.
Yep.
Great metrics. Okay, all right, cool. Y'all heard it here first. Awesome. All right, so now it's time to talk about the opportunities, because there's a lot of things happening right now. There's a lot of reasons why I believe that this strategy would be even more effective right now. So what are those? What are the opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why creative finance is like the #1 search term now in real estate investing. And the Wall Street Journal is now posting about seller financing, Realtor.com is posting about it, and Yahoo Finance, and you name it. It's because there's 2 major things happening right now. One is, let's just talk about buyers right now, because this is what kind of drives it all. So rising interest rates are creating an affordability issue for buyers, for just even the people that just qualify for loans, right? Up to like right around 8% now, and you need at least 20% down. You have to have a really high credit score, like the 700s high. So that automatically is a very small portion of, let's just say North America, right? We'll just boil it down North America. It's a very small portion, which means that if there's smaller buyers for the traditional market, that means that there's significantly more buyers for the rent to own market or for the rental market, whichever one you look for, and however you plan on exiting. Before COVID, it was 60 to 80% of buyers that walked into a bank could not qualify for loans. So if you sat outside a bank, 2 to 4 people would would be able to walk out of a bank with a loan. That's a huge market available for, say, the creative financing investor, especially if you're selling rent to own. Huge market. But then at the same time, right? So because of rising interest rates, now you have properties that are sitting on the market longer, or some sellers won't even go to market. So now you have a giant pool of sellers that are still interested in selling, right? Everyone keeps saying there's not enough housing on the market. Well, it's because it's like 40% of all homes purchased are by real estate investors. So most of these deals are happening off market anyways.
Yeah.
You just have to know where to go. So now you have this, then you have sellers that won't even go on market because they don't think they're going to sell. So now you have all these other sellers. So this is one of those rare times where, for a creative finance and real estate investor, you have pools of buyers increasing and pools of sellers increasing. And what they're looking for is they're looking for their problem to be solved, because the traditional market is not doing it right now. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, even the people that are in good financial standing are sitting there watching the news saying like, I don't know what's happening in politics and wars that are happening, and I should start selling my assets, right? They're being put in a massive state of fear, which is the majority of the country, unfortunately. So now you have people that are even good financial standings looking for ways to exit out of things. I'm sure it's affecting your business selling and acquisition as well. So now they're just looking for problems to be solved, and we can step in and say, hey, here's what you have going on. We can customize a plan. Let's help you get to the finish line, no matter what that is. So huge opportunity right now.
Okay. All right. I love this. And, I do mention all the time that this is the greatest wealth transfer in history happening right now. All right. It's the baby boomers alone is feeding into it, because baby boomers are, exiting out of their businesses because it's time to retire. Some of them may be ready to sell that house and move somewhere else, because it's just a weird time where in the past it was like, it's generational wealth. We pass it down to the kids, but the kids don't want the business. The kids don't want the house. They don't want to be tied into one place. They want to travel. They want to be TikTok stars, right? So whatever it may be. So this opportunity is like, we can't emphasize it enough on both the business side and the real estate side. This is a huge opportunity right now. Now, you mentioned something, and I think it's going to be probably better suited to as we go into the problems.
Sure.
But I'll mention it now, and then you can elaborate on that and any other problems, because that is the most important aspect of POP, right? Mm-hmm. It's all good to talk about all the great things and everything and all the opportunity, but we want to make it real for people and say, hey, there's some challenges you got to navigate around, but you still want to get into this strategy. Now, the biggest problem that I see is that real estate prices, I know you said real estate will always appreciate in the long term. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's hard for me to see it going up significantly more than what it is at now. Like, people are coming in properties that in 2000 may have went for 100,000 is going for over $1 million now. Like, it's insane. So what are your thoughts on that problem in terms of the exorbitant prices of real estate and how that affects the strategy?
Yeah, I've seen some, just from a housing pricing standpoint, I've seen some statistics that they expect the United States to grow by like, I don't know, anywhere from like, I think it's like 300 million right now to 450 million by 250. So I don't think these housing prices are going to go down very much. Again, making a educated guess here over the long term, because I don't think we're going to have enough housing for people long term. But as far as real estate, just in general, it's a safe asset, right? It's a physical asset. You can certainly go through some dramatic events, right? Like 2008, where companies could, go to die, right? But the real estate, although it dropped to about a third, it still had value, right? So there's a bottom usually with real estate. So that's why it's a risk-averse asset. That's why I also think that each and every person should be looking at both of these techniques right now, because I would just be looking at them as deals, like whether it's a business or a piece of real estate. It's a deal. That's really what it is, because as an investor, you're not buying it to live in it. You're buying it for cash flow and appreciation and tax benefits, right? Same with the business. So I would tell people, like, get really good at one and then make the bridge and then do both over the long term. As like you said, the wealth transfer is, I mean, if anything, I'd just be telling people I buy businesses and real estate, even if you don't yet. Because the deals will come to you, and then you go find somebody like me and you say, all right, well, how do we do this deal? And then now you have an opportunity. Because the challenge usually for you and I would say, like most investors in general, is it's not that we don't know how to do them. It's usually we just don't have enough good deals consistently that we want to invest in. So if people bring deals, I mean, that's a huge opportunity in general. But let's talk about the problems, right? So problems are, we go through market cycles, right? It's kind of like stocks in a way. Like stocks can go to zero, but usually you're falling. There's the market trends that usually happen. So you have to be able to, people say real estate and wait. It's like you got to buy it and you hold it, right? Or you exit on rent to own. But then there comes some challenges with that, which are just like any piece of real estate. If you're dealing with people, you're dealing with people problems, which means things like eviction or foreclosure, dealing with tenant challenges, tenants, toilets, and trash is what people say. You don't want to be a landlord. So those are some problems that if you're evictions, court, right? Those things all happen. Doesn't, like, I have, maybe we come back on and do another one. Like, I have so many nightmare stories, it's not even funny. But my gains from being in the business dramatically outweigh the problems. But it doesn't always feel that way, especially we're in the moment dealing with challenges. So there's always problems when it comes to real estate. It's just, you have to know that you're in this for the long haul. I always tell people, like, put the blinders on for the next 3 to 5 years. If you really want to learn creative, like really work on your skill set, systems, processes, mindset, you got to put the blinders on. This isn't an overnight success. With creative financing, the other challenge is, like, you are asking people for terms. So it does take time in order to find the right people, right? So it is a skill set that does not come with osmosis. It comes with practice and communication. So that would, if I could name like one number one challenge I see everyone come through, it's that we're not always great at communication and solving people's problems. And we think that an offer is going to solve the problem, but really it's not. We have to understand the motivation, And we really have to be able to communicate and solve that person's problem. So I'd say the biggest challenge when it comes to creative financing is just usually the time it takes someone to learn the skill set. And of course that can be sped up by coaching and things like that. But it's that would be the biggest challenge. Past that, now it's real estate deals, and the problems aren't that big.
So first of all, team, make sure y'all take that timestamp, because that was a nugget right there, right? And that whole aspect of I get a lot of people who come in and be like, hey, I already tried to reach out to somebody and it didn't work. I didn't get the deal structure. And that's the end of it. But no, that was just, you got to put in your reps. That's just the first attempt. I told y'all I spoke to 20 people to get potentially 2 or 3. So why wouldn't you want to do it? This is not something this is not a play, right? This is something that I mention a lot, especially in the community. I hate the word play when people say, hey, I got this play you could really run. It's just a quick play to make some quick money and ray.
Sure.
No, I don't want a play, because plays get played out. I want a sustainable strategy. I want the long-term strategy and plan, right? So with this is something, no matter if you're gonna start your own business from scratch, cool. You choose to, whatever.
Sure.
But you still should know how to acquire businesses, because later on, every entrepreneur hits a little plateau and it's like, I can't get past that plateau to the next level. Well, one way to do it is acquire another business and roll it in, right? So knowing the skill of how to acquire a business, how to structure a deal, whether it's in the business realm or on the real estate side, is priceless and is long-term and will serve you from now to the end of your, retirement and life and whatever it may be. So I'm so glad that you said that, because that's an important mindset shift for everybody.
Now look, it took me 6 months to get my first deal, and I had 2 people one had over 20 years of experience at the time, and another one had almost 10 years experience. They were in my office. So, maybe I'm a little hard-headed being a bartender and kid from Central Massachusetts. But so my point is, it was just, it's constant. It's working on your skill set. It's failing forward. It's making adjustments. But it is now a skill set that I have for life. If you, I know Robert Allen used to talk about this, right? He always used to say, which is a world famous real estate investor, wrote 30 books or something like that. And he always would say, you drop me off in any market, I can buy a real estate deal. And now that's something that I could do. And that's something that you could do, right? Anybody listening to this can do, if they're willing to dedicate time to learning the skill set. Because now it's send it over to me. Let me take a look. Let me see if it makes sense, this deal. And if so, let's move forward. If not, you can usually tell when it's not a deal a lot quicker than you can tell when if it is a deal. But it's that long-term skill set, and that's how wealth is built. Skill set upon skill set.
100%, man. And I like the so when you think about it, right? You mentioned that you're telling people that they should solve a problem, and I agree. But I always focus on it a little bit different, and I say you're building rapport, right? Sure. If you can speak to people, then you could acquire businesses or acquire real estate, right? Because as I'm speaking to someone, I'm listening to what they're saying, I'm understanding their need, right? So from how you framed it is you're solving the problem. I'm just understanding their needs and their wants. Mm-hmm. And then I include that into my deal structure, right? I have a current deal that we're talking to right now. And on the call, the guy mentioned, I asked him if he'd be interested in an equity role where he retains some equity in the business and stays on. He doesn't have to work because he wanted to retire. But he could be an advisor.
Sure.
Quarterly meetings, maybe just give some insight, et cetera, and you're retaining equity, which we're going to scale and grow, and then you benefit even more. And he said, well, you know what, to be honest, I'd rather the employees get that equity, because he really values his employees, and he wants them to benefit from this sale and blah, blah. I was like, wow, that's awesome. So immediately I'm structuring my deal on ways to benefit the employees, because I know that that's important to him. Yep. Right? So building that rapport, understanding what they need and what they want, and then seeing how you could use that in your deal structure. It applies on the business side or the real estate side. And you can win in this regardless of your expertise in real estate, as long as you can develop that expertise in speaking to people. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a people business. The whole thing. We just happen to, in my world, I just happen to deal with real estate as the asset. Or the sale item. I mean, yours is businesses, but it's all people. That's all it is.
All people. I love it, man. So would you say that there's a market that's better, to do this, or is pretty much everywhere it can be done?
I always tell people draw a 50-mile radius about where you currently are, because we can show you how to find leads within a 50-mile radius pretty easily. But if you want to do it virtually, whatever. But I always say this, is because if you're going to learn a new skill set, a new business, why overcomplicate it and try to buy in a market you don't know? I know that you can develop your real estate skills a heck of a lot more quickly if you're comfortable. And if you can touch the asset, if you can like go to the property, walk the house, like you just learn significantly more quickly. And also I always ask people this, like if it was a life and death situation, do you think you could close on the phone or in person? Like what would you rather bet on? And most people say I'd rather be in person. And I'd say, yeah, you're probably right. So then you should buy real estate around where you are, at least to get started.
True that. I agree. There we go. And yes, I do go outside of my state and
Your
area.
experience now, right?
Exactly. But you guys make it easier for yourself, right? So start nearby. So we did have a question that I saw pop up from the audience. Let's put that back up. It says, any feedback for the current commercial real estate market? Commercial seems to have taken a hit following the work from home movement. I feel like they've been going back to work though. All the companies been calling everybody back to work. But what's your thoughts on that, Zach?
Yeah, I think right now, there's going to be huge opportunities in the current commercial market. I mean, you have large amounts of, arms becoming due, meaning the actual loans are coming due, because most commercial real estate are short-term loans, so 5-7 years. Yeah. You have a lot of them coming due right now. So I think there's a huge amount of opportunity, especially if you have some capital set on the side. And then also, I think there's a huge opportunity for going after debt-free properties that are commercial as well, because not many people are going to be able to get very good interest rates, which means that they can't pay good prices on these properties because they have to fit a certain cap rate. But you as a creative financing investor, I mean, you can go if the numbers make sense to you, because you don't have to put as much money down, or you can get a lower interest rate, or you can do a stair-step interest rate. Like we call it, where it's like you buy it at the first couple of years or 3% and then 4% and then 5%, and it just continues to increase as you increase cash flow. Well, now you have a major opportunity. So I think that there's a huge opportunity in commercial right now as well.
Okay. And obviously, again, with the baby boomers, and if they're selling their business, they most likely, very often, had the real estate in their business for all these years, so most likely paid off. And now you're getting creative deals on both sides, the real estate, commercial real estate, and the business side for sure. So yeah. I love that one. So now I think one of the most important parts that we kind of skipped, that a lot of people probably are wondering about, because this question always comes up to me for me whenever I'm speaking. They say, well, how do I find these businesses for sale? I'm like, oh, well, one of the first places you go is to bizbuysell.com, and you can start looking there. But there's many of those online broker sites, and to be honest, you'll be better to find the off-market deals by following these paths, right?
Sure.
How would you direct people to get started? Obviously, they want to learn how to execute these deals, but where do you even go to find some of them?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 places right now. Number 1 would be expired listings. So these are properties that were on the market at one point in time with the realtor. There's a whole bunch of different companies that will provide those, where they'll provide phone numbers, emails, locations, and you can just call them, right? It's all communication. Second would be absolutely free. Drive around, look for for sale by owner signs, or go on Zillow and look up for sale by owner. Zillow's making it a little bit more challenging, where they're giving these their phone numbers, so they capture their leads. So sometimes you're better off trying to find those signs. And then third would be join your local real estate network groups, make friends with wholesalers and fix and flippers and realtors, as creative financing is a huge opportunity right now, because a lot of the problems that those 3 niches used to be able to solve can't solve them right now. So I get many leads from all of them, and I just call on those deals and try to provide additional opportunities.
Okay, I love it. So you mentioned realtors. How does it work when it comes to a realtor? Because if is the realtor listing it and then representing it and then getting commission from the seller, is that just negotiated in the deal overall?
Yeah, So a lot of the realtor relationships we build are like, hey, if you have it listed and it's going to expire, call me first and let's see if we have some offers, some options. Okay. And then we have a couple different ways in which we strategize with realtors, meaning like if it's about to expire, then we'll tell them that we'll give them like a part of the non-refundable deposit as like, because the way we're selling our rent to own, then we're going to collect a non-refundable deposit and we're going to collect multiple ones over time. So it creates a bit of an annuity for them that they're going to lose the deal. So that's more of like the realtor referral that we're looking for. But or if a realtor gets a hold of a seller and let's say there's no equity in the house, because we're starting to see a lot of that come about where people bought the property for the interest rate, put a ton of debt on it, and now it's not worth what it used to be. Yeah. Well, now the realtor, like if that seller sells, then they have to pay the realtor out of pocket. Like there's no equity in the house. So instead, we'll say, hey, if that lead doesn't work, then send them over to us, and then we'll structure something to cut you in so that we profit from that deal as well. So it also depends on the relationship.
There we go. So you're making relationships for sure and rapport with the realtors as well. Another quick fun fact. I don't believe there is an actual business broker licensing, right? There's certifications, et cetera, with it. But technically, business brokers are real estate brokers. They're realtors.
I'm starting to notice that.
Yeah. And then they just do this one extra filing to now also be able to sell businesses. So it's really weird because often you come across brokers that they don't know what the hell they're doing on the business side because they really just focus on the real estate side more, and not enough people know how to buy a business, so they don't get as many pings and sales on the business side as they do on the real estate side.
Interesting.
So another
fun fact.
Yeah, another fun fact, and you see how closely related the two industries are. But man, okay, I got so many questions, but this is definitely another episode that we're gonna have to do a part 2 later. And
good, man.
But I want to know, first of all, before we start to close it off, right? I'm doing this challenge that's happening right now, and I normally ask people, will they be part of the challenge? But I already know you will be, because what you're doing right now is exactly what it takes to be in the challenge. It's called the $1 Trillion Table Challenge.
Okay.
$1 Trillion Table sounds like crazy, trillion, but through things like business acquisitions, through things like real estate, through things like the financial markets, by the end of this decade, so another 7 years from now, I want to sit in a room at a table, right? I especially do want minorities to be at that table, right? People who look like me for sure. But I want to sit in that room at that table with a network of people, and we have $1 trillion of AUM, assets under management. Now, I know some of your strategies you exit, right? You have an exit for how you're doing this, but I'm sure you're also doing assets under management. You're also holding some. Mm-hmm. And between our businesses, between our real estate, between everything, we have a collective $1 trillion of AUM. Do I need to ask, will you be at that table with me?
I would love to be.
Yeah, there we go.
Tell me where I need to be.
I already know he said your address. I love it. Well, this is great. This is amazing because I believe that while some people feel, oh my goodness, I can't do that in the business. I'm just so nervous. It's above my head. And maybe they need to build some capital first to feel a bit more comfortable before going into the business acquisition side, even though you don't need it. I believe that they may feel a little bit more comfortable on the real estate acquisition side using these strategies.
Oh, yeah.
Now they can forego their credit, forego not having enough money to continue to acquire multiple properties. And then they start getting some cash flow coming in, and then that could go towards acquiring businesses on a larger scale as well. Yep. So I believe these are perfectly paired. I believe that, what you're doing is serving the community like, it's priceless. So keep going with that, brother. Definitely keep simplifying how this works for everybody, because I think that's your superpower as well. But tell the audience more about how they can find you, best way to contact you, and then learn the type of things that you're doing too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to make sure that anyone that's listening to this, your entire audience, gets access to our first Amazon bestselling book. All you got to do is go to wickedsmartbooks.com/BEEZ2. That's wickedsmartbooks.com/BEEZ2. And go ahead and grab that. We'll absolutely ship it to you for free. Nice hardcover book. And then that way you can kind of dive into creative financing and how we do these types of strategies. Good place to start. And then, of course, you can find us on all the social media platforms. That's at Zachary Beach Official and at Smart Real Estate Coach if you're interested in diving further into our techniques.
Awesome. I love it. And y'all hear the link is Beez too, right? So make sure you go get that free book. Make sure you reach out to Zach. Make sure y'all join his community to be invested around other investors that are doing similar things, man. And I'll tell y'all right now, y'all already heard it here first. Between Zach's community and the BBI, we are coming together to do some amazing things. We are going to work together to acquire businesses and acquire real estate and to show everyone that we can do it with creative deal structuring across the board. So look forward. Oh man, this is just awesome stuff. So make sure that you're already subscribed to this channel because you don't want to miss this type of information, especially when we bring Zach back on so we could see maybe a case study we're going to do together or something along those lines, right? That's actually a great idea, Zach. We do a case study. We show acquisition of the business and the acquisition of real estate and in real time and how it went. Oh yeah, this is great. This is great.
Yeah, do it.
Well, thank you, brother, for coming on. Really appreciate you. Everybody, y'all already know what to do. Like and subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed on all podcast platforms. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of the notifications, any of these conversations. But Zach, brother, thank you again for coming to Entrepreneurship Exposed and sharing your information and helping us to pop and expose creative financing for real estate. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.